3, 2, 1. Well, good evening, crewmates, aka shippers, and welcome to the Ship Podcast with me, The Click, and one topic at a time.
Hello.
Before we get into today's episode, we now have a Patreon for this podcast where we will release small special episodes. So, for example, today we talk about dating. The special episode will include some anecdotes from our own horror stories when it comes to dating. So, if you wish to support this channel, we also have some special content for you guys as a thank you. So, with that said, let's get into the episode. How are you doing today, One Topic?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm not looking forward to diving into those horror stories, but you always get them out of me somehow, so we might as well.
I always do. I always get it out of you. So, today we're going to talk about dating. So we're both pretty old. We've both been on many dates in the past, both successful and less successful. So we figured we would share our knowledge with you guys because that's like the most economically effective way of learning. Like learn from someone else's mistake. It's wonderful, isn't it?
There are so many things you've just said that I'm not sure about. You called us old. You said we've been on many dates. I don't know about you, Clint.
I assumed you had been on dates. I have never had one.
I've been on at least one.
I'm
dating
I had
you
one
in
with
one
myself.
Wait, what?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
What?
What?
Huh? What? Huh? Okay. Anyway, so I've had many bad experiences, many good experiences. So we figured the first step in this episode would be to kind of talk about some base rules. How to make yourself attractive to a date. What are some basic things that you should, think about? For example, one thing we were ranting about before we started this episode was actually body hygiene.
Before we dive too far into the hygiene, I absolutely agree with that. Like most people want to get ready for the thing that they're doing. By doing the thing and being successful at the thing. But unless you go through any of the preparatory steps, you're not going to do well. Like when someone just shows up for a marathon and they haven't done any practice jogging. Like you gotta walk, then jog, then run, then fly, I guess would be the metaphor here. So with this,
or you show up in high heels or something.
with this, you've got to do all the practice work first, all the prep work as well, and then you can go on a date successfully.
Yes,
which will definitely play into the horror stories. All right, yeah, go ahead, Click.
One actual very good topic. Very good topic. Huh? See what I did there. One good way to start it actually would be, how do you ask someone out? That's maybe
no
first
hygiene.
Step.
Hygiene.
No. All right. Okay, let's do hygiene first. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Yeah.
Wash your phone.
Take us to the hygiene.
Wash your hands. Wash your phone.
Okay, if you do that, you will have all the dates in the world.
I'm sorry that I'm bothering you, Click. I know people always talk about how I talk over you. There's a bit of a delay in the Discord, so from my end, it feels like you're not talking, and then I go for it, and then it's like right over top of whatever you're saying.
Oh, it feels like I'm not talking. Oh, I see how much I'm out of here.
My God, I feel very strongly about people washing their hands and good hygiene. It's so important to me that I bring it up at almost every convenient point now, especially with all the dust in the wind these days. But even before it was very dusty.
The Black Plague.
I think at some point, maybe for one of these episodes where we talk about all the dust in the wind, that I'll put on my old scrubs and then look
it
official.
Would be fun. Right now it's demonetized, so we can't really talk about it without the channel suffering too much.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's a shame.
It's kind of a bad thing. There are a lot of good resources out there. There's even some good doctors. Dr. Campbell in England is actually doing a whole series of videos just specifically about the dust in the wind that's happening right now. So check out Dr. Campbell. Mm-hmm. He's got good stuff.
Oh,
recommended by my grandma.
And that's a good icebreaker if you want to go on a date, by the way. Mm-hmm. Look at that. That was a smooth transition, right? That was smooth as heck.
You tell us about hygiene.
All right, about hygiene. So the first thing about hygiene is that you don't really smell yourself, if that makes sense. If you smell bad, you might not notice it yourself because, to us, we smell completely neutral. It's the same thing with your home, for example.
Like home. Yeah.
If you notice that, yes, with a very distinct smell you have in your house, you can't smell that, but everyone coming to your home can. Mm-hmm. When your body is pretty much the same thing. So make sure that you are fresh, showered, you have deodorant on, all that kind of stuff. Because the thing is that the outside is not everything, but it's very difficult to be attracted to someone that smells bad. And it goes two ways, you know. You can think about it. How many people that smell bad have you really been interested in? It's probably not that many. It doesn't mean that you have to be, you know, in perfect, you know, smell like a flower 24 hours a day. You know, maybe you work out or maybe you do nasty things. But when you go out on a date, when you're going to be representable to a person you're actually interested in, make sure you smell nice. I mean, the only other people that would be interested in you if you don't smell nice is if they also don't smell nice. And probably even then they wouldn't be interested because you won't be interested in them either. Because it's two very distinct odors.
Yeah, it's very unlikely that you'll find someone that matches your olfactory thumbprint the same way.
Stench.
Yeah, that's another way of putting it. All right.
Yeah. I had that happen once on a date. Once I was on a date, and we were coming home to my place after a night on the town. It was nothing naughty at that point. It was pretty early in the dating. And we just sat on the couch, had a couple of glasses of wine, that kind of stuff. We're talking. It was pretty chill. But then she took her sweater off, and it was winter time, so, you know, we were wearing, you know, thick jackets, that kind of stuff. And it just went off like a really locker roomy kind of feel as soon as she took the shirt off. She was obviously very, you know, warm.
What's a locker room feel? What's that?
Sweat.
Oh, okay,
sweat.
okay.
You know, when you go into
Gotcha.
a locker room and it's really sweaty and, you know, you can smell old clothes and moisture. Yeah. That kind of like, it's like, oof.
I gotcha.
Gosh, heck. And that's always a very big turn off, even if it's not the biggest deal ever in the long run. I mean, if you like them the entire evening up to that point, you're probably going to go on a second date anyway. At least that's what I did. But for that moment, it's a very big turn off, and it's also because it's kind of a surprise, if that makes sense. Imagine if we're going in for a hug with someone, for example, and you're looking forward to this really cozy hug with someone you have been on a good date with, and just like your face gets filled with this odor. It's just like it's very. We want to repel that instinctively because that kind of smell means bacteria, which means infection, which means death. Obviously, you're not going to die. You're not going to die from it in modern world. You know, it's kind of a leap, but that's where it comes from. You know, that's why we don't like those kinds of smells, because when you smell like sweat and stuff, for example, that's bacteria accumulating and creating gas. So there you go. Wash up. It's very, very good for you and very good for the people you want to go on a date with or do the intimate with.
On the plus side, like if they've come off of a soccer field or something, you know that they exercise. And if you like sports and you like exercising, then you'll already have that in common. That's great. And especially tricky to shower after a soccer field because there aren't always shower facilities on site. So in that sense, if someone smells bad, but there's a good reason for it, I'd be fully willing to look past it.
For sure. Yeah, it's all about context. Yeah, definitely. Like if we met at the gym, for example, it's not like, oh my God, you're sweaty at the gym.
Like,
that's gross.
Well,
it's like
you're working out. That's the point. But if you're in a social event,
and it's also
if you're at a social occasion, and there's no reason for it, and there's no contextual basis that you can justify with it, it's just maybe you started off on the wrong foot today.
I think it's also the fact that you don't smell bad right off the bat when you start sweating. You know, it's after it's been sitting a while. That's when the whole bacteria thing starts going. So if you're fresh off a soccer field, you've just been running for 30 minutes and then you go off, you don't have that distinct odor yet. At least not all people. Some people do. Jesus Christ, I know that too well.
A little bit, yeah.
Like
when I would go to conventions and things,
oh God,
I know that they get a bad rap, but it's to the point where some of the conventions need to put up signs saying if you did not shower, if you did not wash, you are not allowed in this convention. I remember you and I approached the same post very differently in two of our furry videos. You remember that individual who stitched together dolls to make a furry suit and never washed it ever?
And they were super creepy and smelled bad. And
so that kind of feeling, that instinctive like gut clench was me remembering back to experiences I've had where I've gone to conventions where people just, they're friendly, they're good people, but something went wrong that day where they didn't have a shower. And if that's how they present themselves to the public at large, then it's very unlikely that they would do the courtesy of showering before going on dates with you or before personal interactions. And that's not a very attractive quality because we all instinctively, like you said, we want people that take care of themselves. We don't want people that are going to put us at risk or put other people at risk. And like you said, you do want to find a common ground with people. What you find attractive is likely what you want someone else to see in you as well. So if you like sports and you find that attractive in someone else and you also play sports, it's likely that other person is going to find it attractive in you that you play sports. If you like people who shower, it makes sense that the other person would also like someone who showers. So find that commonality,
Indeed.
that common ground.
Yes. It shouldn't be a carbon copy of yourself, but if you have the base traits, like you said, for example, are you interested in keeping fit? Do you keep a personal hygiene? Do you take care of a house where you live? Those kind of base necessities, I think both parties look for them. And to be honest, they are relatively easy to fulfill. Just the difference between smelling good or not, it's not a super big effort before a date. If you take a shower, you have some decent deodorant, there you go. And clean clothes. And it also shows other things. Like, for example, when you go out on a date, if you've been on, if you have a few years of experience in this world, you know that when you go on a date, especially the first few ones, you are the best version of yourself. You have your best clothes, you have just showered, you made sure that you have perfume in the right places, you're a bit extra tip-top, maybe you bought a pair of new shoes. That's the best presentation of yourself. And if you can't even make a good first impression on that first date, it always goes downhill. When you get comfortable, you sit in the sofa, watch Netflix together in pajamas. That first presentation of yours is always going to be the most flattering one. So if people see that first impression and they're not happy with it, because they say, oh my, I wonder what's down the road. Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I tend to not put on such an extravagant show. I tend to be kind of real, and I feel like people could read that pretty easily when going out with me, whether it be with friends or dates or to a job interview or whatever. I'm just like, this is what I'm comfortable wearing. Sometimes I like wearing a tie. That's pretty normal.
Sometimes nothing
going
at
forwards.
all, or only a tie.
Moving on, click. So when I go on a date, I have definitely got the impression that some people think like, dear God, if this is what he looks like, what are the skeletons hiding in his closet? No, I'm joking. But I'm just pretty real with people. I'm pretty honest. And then if I wear my honest clothes, I feel like they don't think I'm trying to put on a show like I am hiding something. And if I'm upfront, then I feel like they can think that I'm pretty reliable. At least that if they see, if this is what they get and they like what they see, then cool. I don't have to put on a charade or anything. But if you...
that's a good philosophy. I mean, you shouldn't hide yourself. You shouldn't fake it.
No, but we've talked about this before,
makes sense.
In that you don't want to pull all of the skeletons out of your closet on the first date and shove them in someone's face as if that gives you inherent value simply because you're sharing something you're sensitive about. It does not. It does not. You have to have contextual value
because
first
then
before sharing that kind of thing.
And then they only see the bad stuff. If you've been dating them for a while, they have already discovered your good things. And then if you let some negative sides drop, or at least you're aware of them, then it's like, okay, they have this stuff that might not be the best, but I've known them for a month and they are decent here, here, and here. So this one thing isn't a big deal.
Exactly.
But if it's the first thing you drop, it's like, now my list of this person is only negative. Oh dear God.
Now I'm looking for these landmines.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Okay. Good time for them to do vacuuming upstairs.
Perfect. Yeah,
love it.
It really sucks.
At least I don't think they're throwing kids around today. Sometimes they throw kids on the floor and they bounce off and then they make that noises.
Oh, to the kids basketball. That's perfect.
I agree with putting your best foot forwards. As long as it's an honest foot. Like, don't try to be something that you're not.
No, don't put a third foot forward.
Third foot. That's a good way to put it. Don't put your third foot forwards. Wow, click. Wow.
I have my moments, believe it or not.
Apparently.
But yes, I still surprise you to this day. I like it. Wait until our first date and you'll see about surprises.
I don't think it'll ever change. Hang on a second. I don't think you'll ever stop surprising me, but also hang on a second.
Aw, that's sweet. But one thing about dating, that's a pretty interesting topic. I think I've talked about this somewhere before. I don't think it was on our podcast. Maybe I've just been ranting when we were talking. But one thing that I often see prevalent in dating, and something I used to do myself, is that maybe we talked about this in the last dating episode, but anyway, that you have pretty much a checklist of attributes. This is what I want in my partner. And it's usually kind of superficial things, stuff that might not matter in the long run if you're actually going for a relationship. For example, one thing I had on my list, like way back in the day, this is many years ago, when I was young, was singing. I wanted a girl who could sing. Because I'm into music, I play the guitar, I sing myself, I write music, I record. It was like, oh, it would be so cool if I could get a girlfriend who could sing, and we can do, this really cheesy freaking medleys together and all that stuff. After a while, after I had been through a couple of relationships, I realized that was not the determining factor. It's always good to have something in common, at least in the beginning, so you have something, common ground that you can relate on and then expand on from that. But having those specifics, it's really not relevant in the long run, because the relationship is not going to stand or fall on the fact that someone can sing or not, at least not there. And the other fact remains that not everything has to fit into your partner. Like, I have many friends I do music projects with. The fact that I specifically would need to do that with my partner, it's like, yeah, it would be kind of cozy, I guess, but it's not a big deal. You don't need to fit all your interest into one person.
I feel like a lot of those side projects you can have as like bonuses with your romantic partner.
Yes.
But you don't necessarily want your partner to also be your romantic partner. It's incredibly tricky finding someone that's both compatible for your life and also all of your side projects. It's a lot easier to try not to force one person into every aspect of your life.
Yes, and it's also the kind of all eggs in one baskets. Mm-hmm. What happened? Because let's be realistic about this. Is a pretty pessimistic way of seeing it, but also very realistic. If you date someone, let's say you're in your early 20s, for example.
What's your contingency plan?
Exactly. I mean, the relationship will either end up in you getting married or you breaking up. Or like someone dies, but that's like super tragic, and hopefully it doesn't happen that often. But those are like the two realistic. Otherwise, the relationship ends or you get married. That's like, those are the two outcomes. Mm-hmm. Or you live together forever without getting married, whatever your cup of tea is. But and that's something I think is important to be realistic about. Like, if you're in a relationship and you're both young, there are no kids involved, you don't have financial issues, you don't have loans to pay off, you're not looking into renovating a new house, that's when life is the easiest when it comes to relations. If it's complicated now, again, after kids are in the picture, and after you have house payments, after you have your parents getting old and need taken care of, it's like things are gonna pile on, fam. And if you're not really getting along now, and the relationship takes energy, no. It's like, let's get kids to fix our relationship. No, fam, no, shame.
Those poor kids. Yeah, I think people need parenting certificates before they can have children.
It would be. I sometimes rant about that in my Insane Parents videos. It's like you take a driver's license, you should take a test for having kids.
Yeah,
it's like,
I agree.
Do you have financial stabilities? Are you clean from drugs? How often do you drink? Do you have any history with criminality or violence or anything like that? You won't catch everything, but you will catch the most obvious outliers at least. So
I don't think that would exclude most people. Like, if the test was, are you currently on drugs now? It's like, okay, but are they bad drugs? Like, are they going to be such a huge negative influence in the household? I feel like there's extremes.
Of course, like measured. Yes, of course. I mean, if you smoke marijuana once a month, I mean, who cares? But I mean, if you get smashed on heroin once every evening, it's like, okay, maybe kids are not the best idea, fam.
So we've gone through get washed up. We've gone through just like some mental prep game there. How do you normally find a human to go on a date with? What's your usual?
That is.
How do you pick up the ladies? Click.
How do I pick up the ladies? Assuming that I do. It's thank you very much. But I've had a few different mediums of dating through my years. I've been on Tinder, for example, which is not my cup of tea. I think you lose a lot of the chemistry on online dating. It's good for example, I know people that have found, their wives and stuff on Tinder, but they have also been very efficient about it. It's like, okay, I go on 3 dates a week. After a while, I find someone I really click with, and then we go.
It's a numbers game. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just, it's the engineering way of doing it. If I meet enough people, someone will match. But the most efficient way, in my experience, is friends of friends. So, for example, a house party where about half the people. That's a perfect place to meet someone to date. That's like how I met most of my people, I guess. The people I've been dating and been in relationships with. Events where I know some people, but not everyone. And that's good because then you're comfortable, but you also have room to expand. Tinder for me never really worked out super well. I was on a few Tinder dates, but they never led to anything super much. And most of the time it was just a matter of chemistry, to be honest. Or false advertising.
Oh. Feel like we could talk about that for a while, couldn't we?
Oh yeah, maybe the bonus episode. Hey?
So the premise of what you're saying there is that you have to be pretty social in order to meet people to be social with. I'm on the vast other side of that spectrum. I don't think I've met someone in person for the dating since 2009.
Wait, how old are? No, I'm kidding.
I'm about 69 years old, actually. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good number. Not 420. All right, cool.
No, I'm actually I'm a lot younger than people think, surprisingly. But in-person dating's never really a thing, especially when you grow up in the woods.
Have you been using like?
But,
you grew up like pretty far out of town. Have you been using like online dating mostly?
Yeah. It's been there were a lot of different options. You know, there's plenty of fish, which is horrifying. There's Tinder, Bumble, Happen, Coffee Meets Bagel, OkCupid. There's so many different options. Tinder is one of the weird ones where it's literally face value. It's, do you value what you're looking at? And if that appeals to you, that can be a good option. But like you said, you do miss a lot because you have such a small window to make an impression on Tinder. It's, here's my face. I have to really market that first picture. Here's an incredibly short bio about myself. I have to put like the most punchiest things about me. The most punchiest.
Yeah. I went to the moon and I have a massive pee-pee. Like,
I went to the moon and all I got was this stupid rock. Yeah, just something that people like,
oh my God, tell me more. The moon? Oh, I'd love to summer there.
You know, you're both trying to put such a photoshopped version of yourself forward. That is essentially your third foot, like you were talking about. And then when you meet in person, it's very hard to meet the expectations that someone has based off of the very minimal information they have about you. But it is a lot to ask someone to read more or to look more into you. So sometimes it helps going on to something like OkCupid is a good one, I think, where you have longer profiles. You have more pictures, and the website does a little bit more work to push you towards people you're going to be good matches with. So it gets you to answer hundreds of questions, and based on percentage matches, it puts you up with people that are going to be good matches with you. So like the 96th percentile or more in common. And if you start out that way, it's like there are very few deal breakers on the table. So already you've got a lot to talk about. Already you're quite compatible. And if you appreciate what they look like, if that's important to you, then you've got everything in the bag. It's super easy to meet people. And if they're on a dating site, they're approaching it similarly to how you're approaching it, in that you don't have to have all these social connections. You don't have to go out to parties to meet people. You don't have to try to pick people up at the... Where do people get picked up? I don't pick up ladies.
Cafes, maybe?
Cafes, yeah, I've seen those in movies. You don't have to try to pick up ladies at the cafes.
I've seen those movies. I've seen cafes in movies. I know what that is.
Well, I know what a cafe is, but I know picking people up in whatever. Click. Get out of here.
Ooh.
Ooh, indeed. Yes.
No, I think it's a very good point about online dating. And what I found about it is I actually had a good app I was on for some time where you had pretty much the description checklist as you describe, and it was stuff like, how tall are you, how often do you work out, what kind of religious belief do you have. That was you. It's not mandatory, but
looking for chads.
These things in, yeah, for all the 6'9" chads.
Oh, what? But, you're not over 6'7"? Oh, don't even bother.
Oh my God, I only want boys that are over 7'5". But anyway, so on this app, you had like, height, how often do you work out, what are your religious beliefs, what are your political viewpoints, do you want kids in the future, What do you want from a family? All these kinds of things that are it's kind of good, like a baseline if you're interested in this person on paper at least. Then of course what I found is that even if someone meets all the check marks, a lot more about it is the personal chemistry, to be honest. Some people I've gotten along with the best when I've been dating has surprisingly little in common with me. They have either been from completely different countries, barely speak the same language, but if you have the personal chemistry and you have, how should I describe it? You don't have to do the same things, but you should have the similar kind of energy, if that makes sense. You can complement each other very well. So not looking for a carbon copy of yourself, but rather someone. And when I say chemistry, it's very noticeable when you meet someone with good chemistry. Think about your best friend, for example, how you can very naturally laugh about things, how you understand each other, you're on the same wavelength all the time. It's never awkward. That kind of feel is what you should look for in a partner. And that stuff is what makes it last. When you can understand each other, when the vibe is good, the chemistry is working. All these kind of checkbox things, it's kind of like, it's a cool bonus. And to some extent, of course, if someone is super religious and someone is, super anti-religion, maybe that's not it's going to create some conflict. But apart from the bottom line, most of it is about chemistry, I believe.
Yeah,
long rant.
View systems are pretty important. Pro-religion, anti-religion, don't care about religion. It's all different viewpoints. As long as they're not a dicha about it.
Oh yeah,
that's my main thing. Is regardless of people's beliefs, I'm seeing if they're being little dichas about it. As if someone's anti-religion, but they're not anti-people who believe in religion, I'm like, all right, maybe that's okay. But if they're anti-religion and anti-people that believe in it, it's like, listen, fam. There's a lot of historical context for why religion can be important to people and why a lot of society is built around it and why we owe a lot of gratitude towards different hierarchies that were promoted through different religious practices. But I agree that in many, many instances, it's no longer relevant. Like one of my favorite passages from the Bible is that if you wear two different types of cloth, that you should be stoned to death, stoned to death. Like a lot of silly things definitely came out of religion. I'll agree with that.
So that rule is one of the things that we should keep implementing, right? If I understood it correctly.
Uh-oh. Maybe not. I'm wearing wool and cotton. So maybe not, man.
Yeah,
I'd be stoned to death
I'm looking
immediately.
at my clothes right now. I'm screwed.
I don't even believe you're wearing pants, man.
I'm actually wearing pants right now. It's amazing. I usually don't do it on
Pantaloons?
Sad Milk
No
recordings,
way.
but I'm even wearing socks. How about that? I dressed up all for you.
My goodness. So then after your very social events where you're asking someone a date, how do you actually bring that up in a conversation where you're saying,
How do you want to go on a date with me?
In Swedish, would you go on a date with me? We both have pants. We take our pants on a date. But it's usually less explicit than that in my experience. It's not like I go up to someone like, hey, babe, we should go on a coffee tomorrow. It's like it's not really like that. It's not like that.
Sup, girl?
It's more like,
We should.
are you looking hella fresh?
Do you like walls? Because they keep the roof up, and also I'm gonna push you against one later.
Oof.
But like
you're
in a sexy way, not like in a salty way.
Yeah. And I will respect you all night long.
I'm gonna respect you so hard.
So hard respect. Yeah, I can hear you're an absolute Chad.
oh no?
But it's usually less explicit. It's like you bump into someone, it's pleasantry greetings, when you in a social gathering, you say hello to people, you shake hands with a bunch of people, like, oh, hey, who do you know in this house? Like, start a conversation, and you notice very quickly if it's someone you have chemistry with or not. It's like, I would say the first 30 seconds, it's very easy to notice if the conversation flows or if you have to force questions. And that can be for several reasons. It can be because they're not interested in talking to you. It's because you simply don't have the same chemistry or don't share the same humor. It can be a lot of things. But it is very noticeable. You get that vibe, and it just flows automatically. And then if that keeps flowing, later in the evening, you'll probably talk again, pretty naturally. And eventually you kind of add each other on Facebook or something like that. That's honestly like
How
the most
long is this
common way.
process? What is this? So you're
How long
having a
is this
conversation.
process?
You plan to have more conversations. Then you just have a conversation in person. Have I understood your dating flow there?
No, what I'm saying is that it happens kind of naturally. It's more of a go with the flow kind of deal. It's not like you specifically seek them out, if that makes sense. It's not. I often joke about these pickup lines and stuff like, oh, I see this cutie at the bar. I roll up and like, hey girl, I just shit my pants. Can I get into yours? It's not really. It's usually not that direct. It's more of a smooth, general social approach, to be honest.
Click.
And that's how you figure out.
Jesus
what-
Lord, save me.
That would have
why
worked
do you
on
say
you, wouldn't
these
it?
things? Why? Why have you done this?
Are you? Are you? Oh my
I
god!
hate
I
that
can't
line.
believe you've done this.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awful man.
What? I'm teaching you about the dating weighties.
I guess. All right. So it's very natural. It goes by the flow. Whoopsie. Just dropped my
I think
coffee cup.
also one thing to keep in mind is that I think my way of explaining this is also very much the extroverted way of dating, if that makes sense.
Little bit.
Yeah,
At least
extroverted, introverted is not that different when you're actually at the event most of the time, but
crewmates,
Um,
shipmates. I'm your introverted folk, man. Thing.
yes.
Just listen to me.
We really
Don't worry about
are
it.
two sides of the same coin. One is wholesome, one is cursed, one is introverted, one is extroverted. It's fine. It's perfect. Oh, man.
Yeah, I feel
Imagine what our
like one of
babies
us
would
is
be
Santa
like.
and one of us is Krampus.
Oh, I'm Santa, right?
Are you sure? Are you sure, Click?
I mean,
I mean, between the two of us, you're far more of a furry, so I think you're more likely to be Krampus, man.
Oof. Yeah, that's half the comments on my newest videos. Like, just admit you're a furry already.
What would be like an excluding factor? So you're meeting up with them in person. You're looking for warning signs. What's a warning sign that would keep you away from going on a date with them?
If they talk, for example, there are a bunch of things you can react on, but one thing I picked on. Oh, excuse me. One thing I picked on quite early in my dating days was if they spend a significant amount of time talking about their exes.
Oh, that's an intriguing one. Okay.
Yes, because that can mean a few different things. It can mean that the breakup is too fresh, they're not over it yet. It can mean that they have this flair for drama, and that's something I really don't care about. I can't stand drama. It can be entertaining to look at, from a distance, kind of like, watching YouTube drama far away from your own circle. I felt like, it's kind of entertaining, just watching people go at it. But I hate being involved with it. I think it's such a waste of time.
Right.
So that's one thing I keep an eye open for. And it's not like you can't talk about your exes. At some point I want to know, like, okay, what's your experience, kind of? It sounds weird when I say it like that, but it's not like it's a forbidden subject. But if that's the first thing you bring up on a first date, like, oh my god, have I told you about my ex-boyfriend? I hated this, and then we did this. Oh my god, that. It's like, nah, fam, that's a no-go for me. Another thing that I noticed was that it was in the beginning of my uni days. I had this girl hitting on me every time she got a bit tipsy.
Oh no.
She was quite attractive, quite a charming girl. Very very charming, very charismatic, very fit, smart. She checked all the boxes, so to say. She was very flirty, but the thing about it was that she was not single.
Oh.
And she had a long distance boyfriend. And so she came to me, being super touchy, and started fondling me, kind of, not in the most inappropriate places, but very touchy. And then she's like, "Oh, what do you think about like my body or something like that? You wanna try?" It's like, you're not single. What are you doing? She's like, "Oh, it's a long distance thing. So we're gonna end up breaking up in like a week anyway." I was standing there like, wait a second.
If you're
doing this to
unreliable in
him-
the current relationship that
Yes.
you're in, how can I possibly trust you to be reliable with me?
Exactly, it's not a good marketing thing, because you're willing to cheat now. Then you're gonna be willing to cheat on me as well as soon as that initial super chemistry flare has passed.
Yeah.
That's not a character trait I'm looking for. So that was a no-go for me. I never went anywhere with that because we're just like, nope.
My goodness.
Yeah. So those are a few very red flags. So think about that. If you're dating someone, your current relations and your current morals will reflect on how they will see the future potential in you as well. So if you're willing to cheat now, you'll probably be willing to cheat later on as well. That's a pretty obvious example, but you get the gist. So what about you? What are some red flags that you have encountered?
There's a lot. There's usually things that I look out for. And personally, I'll be honest, hygiene is super high among them. If someone doesn't brush their teeth, and I don't mean if they have yellow teeth, but if they very obviously don't take care of their oral hygiene, that can be a big red flag for me. Bad oral or poor oral hygiene can cause heart disease. It can cause an infarction. There's so many different things that can happen just by having bad teeth that you really have to be on top of that. It can also speak towards someone's priorities. If they don't keep their teeth clean, what else are they not doing? Do they not wash their hair? Do they not work out at all? Like, what are they not taking care of in addition to that? So like you said about putting your best foot forwards, if someone isn't at least doing what I consider a bare minimum effort of brushing their teeth before a date, then that's just a huge red flag for me. I really like I think it was an ex-Marine speech about the best way to get started on being successful is to make your bed in the morning every single day. Because once you've made your bed, you've already had one success in your day before you've done anything else. And all you have to do is keep building on the successes after that. Once you make your bed, you move on to the next thing. So for me, I don't care. I've got a bunch of blankets. They're thrown everywhere. I love a big comfy bed with a bunch of blankets. Not a big deal to me. But what does matter is brushing my teeth. You brush them every day, multiple times a day, at least 2. A lot of dentists say, before and after meals are the best times to brush your teeth as well. But also not brushing too hard, but also not brushing too soft. It's like a okay. So I realize I'm going on teeth for a while, but what I'm saying is wash your hands, wash your phone. Okay.
Yes.
One of the warning signs is if someone, if I'm getting prepared to go on a date with someone and they text me at a very suspicious moment, like if I believe they're in the toilet and they start texting me, that's a big red flag for me. That's a big no-no. Because
really?
Oh yeah, because what do they do when they leave the washroom? Hopefully they wash their hands, but they're not going to wash their phone every time. And they've touched all the same surfaces all around the washroom that are all the shared surfaces that other people touch. So even if they don't have poor hygiene, other people with poor hygiene have touched all the same shared surfaces that they've then touched their phone with, that they then wash their hands, but then as soon as they touch their phone, just as dirty. Their hands are just as dirty.
They use those hands to touch you.
Hopefully not at that point.
Yay.
No. So yeah, wash your hands, wash your phone. Red flags.
Yes. That's good in general, not even for only dating.
The drama I agree with, though.
Thing
if someone talks about their exes, that is a red flag. I hadn't considered it to that extreme. I feel like it's appropriate to say, how recent was your last relationship? So I feel like that comes up pretty early.
Oh, of course.
Because then it's good to determine what they're looking for. And also, like, do you tend to go on long-term things or short-term things? Because if it's short-term, it's not really my cup of tea. But if it's long-term, hey, let's get married and let's have kids.
Yes, of course. It's all about the kitty witties. No, like I said,
What
it's
the
not a
fudge
forbidden subject. What? It's not a forbidden subject to talk about exes, but
but it's the quantity. Quantity matters.
Yes, exactly. One interesting thing when it comes to kids and stuff, it's more of a psychology tangent, but it's more for the young men in the audience, I guess. So, psychologically speaking, now, of course, this sounds traditional because it's more to do with evolutionary biology, but it is more expensive for a woman to settle down than a man, if that makes sense. It's more expensive for a woman to pick a partner because, well, they get preggo, and it's hard work to push out a baby. And that's essentially what all relationships led to in nature. That was the purpose, essentially. So, as a man, to be appealing, what I have found is that you need to show that you can take care of yourself and also have a margin. Because if the relationship follows our instinctual nature, she will be stuck with a child. So it's up to you to have that extra margin to make sure that they survive, essentially. And I think that's kind of important to keep in mind. Because if she has to take care of you, she will probably not be interested in pursuing a long-term relationship because instinctively she will think, okay, well, I'm also going to have to take care of a baby in the future, and I have this incompetent man who I have to take care of right now. This ain't going to work, fam. Of course, this is a very traditional viewpoint. Like I said, it's more to do with evolutionary psychology. It's not always 100% relevant in modern society, but it is something to keep in mind. That's where we came from. So some dating decisions actually stem from that. So yeah, important to keep in mind. Whoa, dating tips with a click.
Yeah, in a lot of straight-based relationships, I guess that's important to keep in mind, is that you don't want to be too reliant on your partner to take care of you, or else there won't be much room in your relationship to pursue anything else. And I think that's pretty reflective across all relationships. Shout out to my LGBTQ plus fans out there. Is that you don't want to be too reliant on any individual person. You want to be pretty self-reliant. That way there's a lot of room to explore other things in the relationship. So if you're not doing your dishes, do your dishes. If you're not making your bed, maybe that's okay, but wash your hands. Because you don't want that person that, if you feel like someone's nagging you a lot, maybe you should listen to why they're nagging you. Maybe if they're doing it out of concern for you, where they're saying, hey, I really wish you'd pick up more, maybe you can realize, well, wow, if I don't pick up, this negatively affects the other person. So then they feel like they have to, which is them constantly looking after me, and that's not good. Am I putting in as much as they are? And if not, regardless of being, straight relationship, if you want to adopt a kid, maybe that's not coming up down the road. If you want to adopt a puppy, maybe that can't come up because you can't take care of the basic necessities as things stand now.
No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing even if you don't have kids or a puppy or adoption. If you buy a house with a garden you have to take care of, like maybe they won't be willing to do that because they already have to carry your ass. So.
Exactly. What's the point of growing food if we could just go out and get it quickly, because I know you won't look after the plants anyways, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Prove to your partner that you're reliable.
No, yes. No, if you're not, it stunts a lot of future potential. It really does. And I think... that's something it's very good to keep in mind, especially for young people, because not something you always consider, at least out the gate, because you're used to growing up with a family. Of course, you have parents taking care of you. So when you get, 20 plus, I would say, somewhere like that, you moved out, or, you're going to college, or maybe have a job, something like that. You're getting to that point where, well, you're your own person. And that's awesome in many ways. But if you want to have a long-term partner, it's something you also need to show. And one important thing with relationships is that it's kind of cheesy, but 1 + 1 should be equal 3. 1 + 1 shouldn't be 1, if that makes sense. You should all have margin, and you should expand each other's horizon. You should both be stronger because you're with the other person. One person should not carry the other and vice versa. It's a two-way street. And that's very important. And some people say, oh, you're not there for your partner. Well, yeah, of course I am, but I'm not going to be there for them if they're not there for me. It's a give and take, not a take or give.
I agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's important to be as valuable as you hope the other person is for you. Can't look out for someone to solve all your problems if you can't solve anything yourself. It's pretty basic. No. Click.
No, for example,
how do you pick up women?
Oh my!
I'm sorry, I did interrupt a thought
stuff.
of yours, so feel free to finish that thought and then answer my question. Yes. Ooh.
Oh my! I use that voice and then I'm done. As in, I'm done as it's over. They walk away.
Oh my goodness! Oh, I see. Okay.
But yeah, the thought I had was during past relationships, and this goes both ways. If someone is down on their luck, that's the time where your partner can really show that they're there for you. But if that is a constant state of being, if they always have to be there for you, or you always have to be there for them, like every day, for a unspecified period of time, that's when it's become questionable. Not if, I have a bad couple of weeks, or I got fired from my job, or something like that. That's perfectly fine. Your partner should definitely be there for you and pick you up. But if you are unwilling to improve the situation, if you just get stuck in your own swamp and refuse to leave, and you drag them down with you, that's not something you can expect. You should probably leave that, to be honest, and you can't expect someone to stay for it either. It's kind of dark, but it's also the way that your partner can't help you to an infinite extent. A lot of it is still on yourself, and that's a balance. For example, when I was going through hardship when my channel was taken down, and my girlfriend was very supportive, But if I had stayed in that mental state, forever, even after my channel came back, and I kept being, super down on my luck, depressed, all that stuff, which it's fine to be sad, but it can't be the constant state of being. And that's what I'm saying. Because then it becomes a take or give relationship, and that never lasts. It never lasts. On paper, it sounds heartless. It sounds like, the psychopath reasoning, but it really is true. And
well, you should be able to rely on your partner, but you shouldn't be reliant on your partner.
Exactly. You should still be an independent person.
Don't make you their responsibility, if that makes sense.
Yes. No, that's a very good takeaway. So how do I pick up the ladies?
How do you pick up the ladies?
Whoa. Most ladies I've picked up, or that I've gone on dates with, have been through social interactions. Like I said, it's been like a few Tinder dates, but most of them have been, for example, girls I've met on different events or parties and stuff during my student years. Or, for example, my current girlfriend I met through common friends. So we often, bumped into each other on, events, different gatherings of sorts. So that's the most natural way for me, honestly, because then you know the person to some extent already. You know that you have some common ground, and you also have talked to them a few times, so the chemistry is there. It's not someone you meet for the first time. Which can also be wonderful, meeting someone for the first time and then going on a date. It's a lot of butterflies. It can be a wonderful feeling. Or it can be anxious as heck. But there are different ways of doing it. But that's the most common way I've done it that have actually led to somewhat, consistent relationships. So what about you? What's your strategy for picking up the lasses?
Well, what's interesting is I've never been picked up myself. I've never had someone seek me out in person and then say, we should date. And I feel like I extend that same courtesy outwards as well. Like a lot of boys in the public, like the gym, will try to pick up people. And by a lot, I mean, if there's 100 people, there's a reasonable chance that one guy will shoot a shot at least once out of that 100.
Yes,
but
and it's also
the rest of us are pretty task oriented, where we're just there to work out.
It is a very bell curve kind of thing. I think most people have experiences of people being very pushy, and it's usually just 1% of the population that's really pushy. Goes for both girls and guys, but it's enough for one of that 1% to be at a social event, and they will probably hit on 24 people. So everybody
all of them.
That evening, yeah, exactly. So everybody who's been there that evening are gonna say like, "Oh, I had this pushy experience," it was but in reality, it was one person making everybody uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of distribution logic that happens in the dating world. Women that think that all men are pushy probably have bad experiences with a few of them, and vice versa. When I go through and look back, for example, when women have been way too pushy and like touched very inappropriately when they have been drunk or doing all kinds of shady stuff, my guess is that I'm far from the only one that they have done that to. And I think that goes both ways.
So when I'm at the gym, I've never tried to pick anyone up. Sometimes I'll ask to work out in with people. I've done that with guys and gals. Whomever can lift, I'm happy to lift with. I remember I was working out with this one girl. We were on the bench press together, and we started talking about our lives. And I very early in the conversation brought up that I had a partner, and then she completely opened up and started talking about her partner, and everything became more comfortable after that point. We ended up becoming friends too, and it's important to establish that you're not seeking out someone specifically because you just want to meet some person. If you are looking to date someone, you want to date them on more than just their looks. Because rather than be like, hi, girl, I love your hair.
Oh, my God.
That can't be the main thing that you want to date someone about. So what if they lose their hair? What? No. But like the pickup artists and things that was like the big fad of the mid-2000s there. Where they were just like, let me find this individual physical characteristic, go off of that, do some casual negging, and then manipulate you into more dates with me. It's like, where's the valuation? How do you value this interpersonal relationship with this person if all you're looking for is that physical connection? You're
It's
basing
easy
on nothing
naughty
but your
naughties.
C.
That's all it is.
Yeah, easy naughty.
It's a
naughties.
different. It's a complete. Yeah, it's a completely different goal. That's why. But
I promote
yeah,
physical connection between people that want that physical connection, but that can't be your main goal always if you want more. If you want a relationship with someone, pursue someone that wants a relationship and establish that early on. Don't try to pick someone up in the grocery store just because you think they look pretty, but definitely start social conversations. Oh my goodness. With people you think are pretty.
Well, it's
I almost coughed and then I punched my microphone just now. So that's fun.
to make up for it. So it
No, at the same time, because I moved my hand to try to cover my mouth, but then it just full on punched my mic.
All right, perfect. Well, I think what you said about looks is interesting because it's kind of people often get interested about someone based off the looks. That's like the initial impression, but that can't be all of it. If you actually want to have a long-lasting relationship, there has to be more. So it's a bit of both, really. Like when someone comes up to you or you come up to them, it's usually because, oh, you're looking fresh, and then hopefully the conversation flows and you actually have something to talk about. That's when you know it has potential. Only going for someone for the looks, that's short-term naughties, nothing more.
The physical looks of someone are so secondary. They're so vastly secondary in the importance of everything. So many things.
In the grander scheme of things. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, if you're gonna form a long-lasting relationship, sure. I would still say the chemistry needs to be there, like the bodily chemistry, because that's so closely knit with how we work as animals, basically. But it's far from everything. So far from everything. So essentially, I don't remember who said it, but it's something like, if you're only together with someone for their body, it's a short-term naughty, and if you're only together with them for their personality, well, they're only a friend. And,
interesting.
Yeah. And it has to be everything. It has to be everything for a relationship to actually function. At least for most people. Some people, don't appreciate the physical stuff. There are all kinds of preferences out there, but for the vast majority of the population, I think that simple rule holds quite true.
I'm racking my brain. I'm not that sold on physical looks. I don't think that's the main thing that I usually when I'm on dating profile sites and things for people that I'm looking for, it's more like what activities are they up to rather than what they look like as a person. I think one of the main things that would push me away about physical characteristics is if they're so heavy set that I'm unsure if they can complete the same tasks that I am or if they prioritize the same aspects of life. But it's not so much that I don't find fat people attractive or people that have a lot of fat attractive. It's just that a lot of the physical activities that I like to do require being quite agile. And if someone has, for instance, some physical difficulties, it might hamper a lot of the romantic side of the relationship. Like if I have this grand plan in mind of proposing to someone on top of a mountain, it would be much more difficult for me to accomplish if they don't enjoy hiking as much as I am, for instance. One of the reasons for that being is that I'd want it to be a surprise. And it's not so much of a surprise if I'm just making a big deal about getting them up to the top of a mountain for the very first time. Like, oh yeah, let's get up there for no reason at all. I'd rather it be like, oh, let's go on this adventure. Let's go on this long hiking trip for a few days. And on this final peak of this final mountain of our long romantic getaway, finally I've popped the question. Like that I would find more appealing than try to make the event of the thing the most important. And there's just a lot of physicality that can go into planning a lot of different things.
Of course. You don't want someone who limits you. And also the other way around. You wouldn't want to be with someone who you feel that you limit.
I wouldn't want to be with someone that I might make feel bad. Like if I'm saying, I need to go to the gym today, I don't want them to feel like they have to also go to the gym if that's not what they need to prioritize in their life.
Yes.
Like I work out pretty often, fairly often, and I don't want someone to look at that and be like, oh God, I could never keep up with that. I'd feel so bad if I were dating them. Because that would make me feel bad. I'd feel awful.
Oh, such a sweetheart.
Shut up. Go away, Click.
But I think for me, when it comes to looks, it's kind of like it's very subjective. I've noticed, especially when I talk about attraction with friends, it's super subjective, which is also good. The world would be incredibly boring otherwise. But for me, it's like the physical attraction needs to reach a certain threshold, if that makes sense. And after that point, it doesn't really matter. If that makes sense. I have no intentions of dating supermodels. I never cared for it. It's like if I find someone subjectively attractive and then they have an amazing personality, which makes them even more beautiful, it's like, okay, yeah, here we go. Wow, this is good stuff.
So in that sequence there, you've just noticed what they look like. Then as you engage with them, you learn more about them. I think that's the way you've conveyed that. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
For example, some of the people I have found the most beautiful. I'm not saying I do that now because I'm not emotionally involved with them anymore. But when we used to be in relations, yeah. So some of the people I have found the most beautiful during my time is when I see them for the first time. I'm like, okay, this looks like they're kind of my type. And then you start talking to them, and for every time you spend time with them, they become even more beautiful to you. If that makes sense. It's not because they physically look better, but it's because you have more things to add to that face. When you see that face, you see their entire personality. You see that person you have so much in common with. You see that person that you're safe with. So that's what I mean, that the physical attraction has to reach a threshold, an initial threshold for it to be interesting, at least for me, subjectively. But after that point, the stuff that makes it grow is not the physical attraction. It's the stuff you pile on top of it. And that's my way of seeing it, at least. Ooh.
Okay. That's really interesting. Yeah. I think a lot of that is probably geared towards your very social nature, is that you already instinctively look for people that are going to be good matches with you socially. And then when you pursue more than that, you're looking for very similar matchups, as it were.
Probably.
You're like, okay, does this person look like someone I could be social with? Oh, cool, let me go up and make friends. Similarly, oh, does this look like someone I could be a good match dating-wise? Oh, cool, let me go up and make dates. But on my side, it's more... it's more task-oriented. I'm more looking to accomplish goals, I think. and they're two different approaches for different
we should climb
types
this
of people.
mountain together.
I'll be honest, like Human One and I, if none of you have seen my face reveal video, Human One and I were going on a date that day, and then that was pretty early on. And we decided to...
He's just trying to make me jealous, y'all. Yes,
anyways, so I like being outdoorsy and doing physical activities, and it's important for me to find someone that does enjoy that as well, because I just spend so much time doing it. It doesn't mean they have to do everything that I do. Like, I also like playing a lot of video games, but I don't need a romantic partner that also plays video games as competitively as I do. I used to compete playing video games, so I still have that I still have that mindset sometimes where I'm like, I need to win. But outside of that, I don't really have that anywhere else. I think anyone that's been to the streams has seen that, but I like above everything else, I like a sense of kindness, and you can't really see that right up front. So I agree, there has to be something that sort of opens the door to you, whether that be a physical trait, a physical aspect to someone, whether that be someone meeting what specific range in your color wheel that you're trying to look for. If you really like sapphire and emerald and ruby, but you're not such a fan of orange, like there's all different types of people, all different shades on that color wheel that you might find to be a good match. But there has to be something that catches your eye first before you can pursue more. I'd say that, but yeah, most important to me is just someone who's generous and kind.
Yeah, kindness lasts a long way, and that's always someone you can be.
But you can't see it.
You have to find someone you can be vulnerable with. Someone you can be vulnerable with. That is very important.
My goodness, having that trust with someone, that can take so long to build up. That is.
Oh yes. Yes.
And that's the thing. Once you have the value in the relationship, then you can start building up that trust and sharing those personal aspects. But like we talked about earlier, and in the previous one, is that you can't go full hog right away. You can't just put everything on the table and be like, these are all my cards. Now you know everything. Do you want to date me?
These are my dark secrets. Like, no, but that trust takes time, and it takes time also because it has to be tested from actual situations. Like anyone can tell you, like, hey, you can trust me, but unless you've actually been in a situation where trust is necessary, you can't really believe it to 100%. You're not sure. And that's actually, I saw a lecture. Was it a lecture? Like, whatever. Someone was talking about how it's so silly that we give away so expensive engagement rings. Like, why do we do that? It's ridiculous. But they started talking about, well, you know what? It's more of a... yeah, it's more of a sacrifice. It's a symbol, because anyone can say, I love you. You know, it's really easy to say I love you, but unless you're willing to give something up for that person, unless you're willing to show them that, hey, I have such affection for you and I care for you deeply that I'm willing to do stuff that actually hurts for you. It sounds so melodramatic, emo style, but that's, for example, why an engagement ring is such an important gesture, because it shows that, hey, I'm actually willing to get this expensive thing that have costed me hours of investment from my salary and working, and I'm willing to give that to you as a symbol of my appreciation. So that's really more of what it is. Anyone can say, hey, I appreciate you, but unless you're willing to show it somehow, it really doesn't mean that much. And it doesn't have to be a ring. You know, that's a pretty obvious example, but it can be anything. If you say, for example, oh, I like spending time with you, but you never take the time to spend time with them. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't mean anything. It's just words. It's empty words.
Yeah, invest in actions, not in words.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Yes, definitely.
Click,
And I mean,
we have
words
been
can be nice
recording
too.
for a very long time. Do we have any final
How
thoughts?
long have we been recording for?
A bit over an hour.
Check out the special episode we have on our Patreon, where we will talk about more of our horror stories when it comes to dating. Very entertaining. We're going to record it right after this one, so of course we already know for a fact that it's going to be entertaining, because I mean, it has us in it. Come on.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit beforehand, what we'd like to talk about. We're like, can we fit it in this one? Well, why don't we put it in a bonus one? That'd be kind of cool.
It's like, oh. And I think that was a good choice, because this has been running for a long time already.
Yeah.
So, if you wish to support the channel, there are some bonuses for you. If you don't, we will still release these episodes as normal, because we don't want to have stuff behind a paywall. It's more of a bonus for the people that want to support the channel. And yes, any closing thoughts? One topic about dating.
Yeah. Just try to be happy.
Wash
Whatever
your
you're
hands.
doing. Wash your hands. Wash your phone. How do I not remember? That's my catchphase now. Wash your hands. Wash your phone. Oh my goodness. But yeah, if you're going
That's
into a
for memes.
relationship,
I'm a
just try to be
furry,
happy.
and you're like a health freak.
if your plan is to date someone that makes you happy as you make them happy, not someone that you have to keep investing in just to not be alone. I think that's my
Yes.
dating advice.
That is very true, and that goes for right after you've broken up as well. Don't jump into a relationship just to fill it up. Let that black hole fill itself up for some time, and then you realize that someone new is actually worth the time to make space for, not because you happen to have an empty gap that you're desperately trying to fill.
Just thought of a future episode. All right, let's end it there.
Breakups. Well, everyone, we do hope that you enjoyed this episode, and please subscribe to the Ship Podcast if you wish to see more. And this has been the Click and One Topic. So have a wonderful day, night time, or what time is you live, and we will see you in the next episode. Take care. Mwah.
Every time.